Good afternoon from the kitchen, folks. Today I'm going to have a go at making a rhubarb and hibiscus flavoured cider. So here are my key ingredients. Well, it's rhubarb and hibiscus flavour. Here's my rhubarb, 4 stalks from the garden. I need to get rid of the greens. This is the good stuff. The hibiscus are dried flowers, which I bought last week from a Turkish supermarket in Stevenage. These contain just hibiscus flower. Never used this product before, no idea what it's like, but I'm looking forward to giving it a try. My yeast of choice today is Lalvin EC 1118 Champagne Sparkling Wine and Cider Yeast. Pretty good stuff, to be honest. I'm feeding that with a bit of yeast nutrient, and I'll be using some pectolase within the brew to try and give it clarity. The pectolase will break down the cloudiness that using fruit in ciders can do. My main bulker, of course, is 4 litres of apple juice. I'm using the turbo cider method. Check out the Facebook group Turbo Ciders for All. Great group, but basically turbo ciders is using apple juice from concentrate and not actual apples. However, when you use apple juice from concentrate and not actual apples, you don't get the skins and therefore you don't get the tannins, which gives the cider bite. Therefore, I'm using a couple of tea bags to artificially inseminate my cider with tannin, and I'm doing that in a little bit of spring water because I've not got quite enough apple juice. And I was trying not to use spring water anymore, but I'm going to have to use a bit of spring water today. So I've got 350ml of that in there. My fermentation vessel of choice is the bog standard good old demijohn. Holds 1 gallon or 4.54 litres. So let's crack on. So I'm beginning my brew by adding my spring water into a saucepan, throwing the tea bags in and getting this going. I need to make myself a little bit of tea. So this will take a couple of minutes to come to the boil. While that's happening, we'll sort out my rhubarb. And if you can hear lots of noise outside, it's because Leeds Bradford Airport is currently quite busy post-lockdown. So the rhubarb is fairly easy to sort out. Just cut it there. This goes in the bin. It's no good. It's actually poisonous. But this is the magic bit. So I've got myself 4 decent stalks. I'm just going to give these a rinse. So I consider these cleaned. Now it's just a case of chopping them down into little pieces like this. There's definitely no need to peel them or skin them or anything like that. Et voila. So you can see that the tea is infusing into the water by the colour of the water. I'm going to let this come to a boil and then I'm going to squeeze and strain the bags. So these are now simmering. I'm actually just going to leave them for a minute or so just to extract all the tannins I can out of them. Okay, it's time to remove the tea bags. I'm just going to use a slotted spoon, and then I'm going to use the back of a teaspoon to press the tea bags to really get the flavours out of them. The tannins give it that bite, that body, that cidery edge. Okay, so these can go to compost now. So there's my tea minus the bags. The heat is still on. I'm now going to add the rhubarb into the tea, and this will break down. The fibres break down in rhubarb quite easily with heat. I can already smell the rhubarb smell coming out of that, so this is definitely not going to take too long to break down. I shall turn the heat up very slightly, pop the lid on to build the steam up, and in a couple of minutes time this will be done. 2 minutes have passed. Let's have a rhubarb update, and you can see that that's looking quite pulpy now. I'll turn the heat right down and you get a better view of it, and if I simply use the slotted spoon just to manipulate it, you'll see that the fibres really have broken down almost completely. So this is just basically a liquid mush now. So I'm just going to give it 2 more minutes and then we'll proceed. So I've got my hibiscus flowers. I'm just going to open these up and have a look at them. I'm trying to think in my mind, what was the last hibiscus cider I made? I think I did make a cordial flavoured one last year. But I can't remember what hibiscus smells or tastes like on its own. It's just got out of my head. So hopefully this will be a big help. Here we go. It's really rich, sort of like dark fruity. Almost a little bit like raisins. Dare I just eat a dry flower? It tastes like really healthy breakfast cereal. A bit too healthy for me, to be honest. Anyway, these now go in with the rhubarb into the tea. So you can see that mixture is there. I'm going to turn the heat completely off now. And I'm going to add these in. I'm just going to push them down into the mixture. Then I'm going to put the lid on and leave this to infuse for a bit. So I had a very slight brainwave. I think what I'm going to do is add a litre of apple juice into this pan, or fill the pan up as much as I can with apple juice. The heat's off, but what I'm wanting to try and achieve here is a nice sort of mixed tea flavour with the fruit and the tea in there, and that will definitely, adding that extra liquid will help this now. So it's a lovely colour. Okay, so it's time to start putting this together now. So next I'm going to add my apple juice into my demijohn. So we've got the first litre. And while I'm doing this, have you subscribed to my YouTube channel yet? Please do. www.mosshomeandgarden.co.uk, hit the red subscribe button, press the bell, make me smile. And if you want to leave any comments on my channel at all about any of the brews I'm making or ideas for recipes, then please do so, because I'm always happy to think about new ideas for brews. So I've reached the point now where I'm going to start to add some other bits and pieces in. So here goes a generous heaped teaspoonful of yeast nutrient. And here goes a generous heaped teaspoonful of pectolase. Now that's stuck a little bit around the funnel. Apple juice to the rescue. And that's washed in nicely. So at this point I'm just going to give this a little bit of a swish around. Yeah, those powders will dissolve just fine. So it's been 15 minutes since I put the apple juice into the pan. I'm hoping that it's cooled down enough now for me to be able to add it into the demijohn. I'm just going to go and see. And in fact, it's still warm, but it's by no means too hot, so that's now going to go into the demijohn also. So I'm having to poke some of the fruit through. In fact, what's going to be easier is if I find a wider funnel, because I want the fruit in the cider for the first part of the brew. So here's a nice wide funnel, which my wife made me from a bottle. Really simple and effective idea, but this bit is the same diameter as the top of the demijohn. I've just got to hold it in place, and now I can get the fruit matter into it okay. So I'm going to have to spoon this in, because there's a lot of it. Don't worry about it going down. That's what this bad boy's for. Just takes a little bit of encouragement. But adding all this fruit matter should really give some big flavours. Now the downside to adding fruit matter is the cloudiness, but with the pectolase I'm hoping that I'll be able to sort that out. The other downside is that if you leave the fruit in for too long, it can give you some off flavours and it might not taste so good. So I'm actually only going to leave the fruit in for 10 days, maybe a little bit less. Certainly no longer than 10 days, and then I'm going to rack this into a fresh demijohn without the fruit matter. There we go, that's all in. Mind you, the kitchen drainer looks like there's been a murder. Okay, so I'm just going to give this a right good swish around. I'm kind of wondering whether to put red wine yeast in this one, you know, just for the hell of it. I'll stick with the Lalvin. Maybe next time. Has anybody ever made a cider with a red wine yeast that's in the group. That would be very, very interesting to know, actually. If any of you have, please let me know in the comments how it went. Because I have got red wine yeast. Right, let's get the remainder of the apple juice in there now. And in it goes. I think the yeast can have a pretty good time in here, in all honesty. There's plenty for it to be feeding on. Now I've overfilled my demijohn, don't care. It will flood out, I know that for a fact because of the amount of fruit fibre that's in there. I'm not worried about it, I can just clean my airlock out. Okay, so I'm just going to give this a little swish around because I definitely want it to be properly mixed. Okay, I'm going to take out 100 ml to take the original gravity. That will not be going back in. And that does make a little bit more space in the top, just a little bit. Okay, so this is too warm for me to take the original gravity, so I'm going to put it in the fridge for 15 to 20 minutes. It needs to be 20 degrees and it's definitely above body temperature at the minute. So I'll pop this in the fridge and get on with the cider. So I'm going to add the yeast into there and I'm going to use what is basically a nice rounded teaspoonful. I'm going to let that sit on top for 5 minutes and then I'll give it a swish around. Okay, 5 minutes is up and most of it's sank anyway. I'm just going to do this to make sure there's nothing stuck around the edges of the demijohn. Okay, so I'm going to bob the airlock in right now. Okay, this is now cooled down to 20 degrees, so it's time to take the original gravity. So in goes the hydrometer. And I'm starting on an original gravity of 1.050, 1050. So I shall have a cheeky little nifter. The tartness of the rhubarb is there. The sweetness of the hibiscus is there. So that's quite nice actually. They complement each other very well. I think this might be some tasty cider. Okay, this stage of the brewing process is now done. I'm just waiting for fermentation to begin. So I'll give you an update when that happens and we'll see what happens in terms of it flooding out of the demijohn, which I'm fairly sure is probably going to happen. So I'll catch up with you when fermentation begins. So just a 4 hours later update, and yes, that was a bubble. In fact, fermentation happened very quickly. We've got a krausen already on top, we've got a cake made up of the solid matter from the fruit that was within there, and the yeast, etc. But yeah, this was quick. The fermentation began within about an hour and a half, and this is now 4 hours later. So I'm happy enough with this. But what this does tell me is that this will likely go nuclear in the next 24 to 48 hours. And I'm expecting this to rise much higher. Let's see what happens. So 2 days have passed. The krausen is definitely there and proud. It has pushed up a little bit, but it hasn't actually come out of the top like I thought it might do. So fingers crossed, I might get away with this one. So now I've said that, I've probably jinxed it and it's going to go everywhere. I really hope that it doesn't. So if it does go everywhere, then the next film that you see from me will be it going everywhere. And if it doesn't, it'll be racking. Let's find out. Good evening from the kitchen, folks. It's my raspberry and hibiscus cider racking day. Let's have a look at it. Here it is. It's been 11 days in the demijohn. And tonight I'm simply going to pour it from there into here before pouring it back again into there and possibly topping up with some apple juice. I'll see how much space I've got. Let's crack on. So I'm just going to remove the bung from the demijohn. I've got 2 filters today. It smells very cidery and very fruity. Always a good sign when you're making a fruit cider. Right. Just leave this a sec. And you can already see that the filters are doing their job. Now I don't want to waste any juice, so I'm just going to let this settle for a bit before carrying on. Okay, I'm back on it. like a car bonnet. Let's get in. Anyway, this might take me a few minutes because I might have to keep stopping for the filter, so I'll get back to you when I've got it all in there. Catch you soon. Okay, so I'm just about done in there. I'm going to give my demijohn a little bit of a rinse because I want to obviously remove all the matter that's in there so it's clean when I pour what's in there back into it. So that's all done. Just going to clean the filter out and then pour it back into the original demijohn. Right, back in we go. It's a beautiful colour, isn't it? It's going to be a nice rosé cider. I sometimes get asked, are you worried about oxidisation? If it happens, but so far it hasn't. So long may my luck hold out. There we go. Okay, this is what I've got. I'm going to take an interim gravity reading right now. So I'm going to sacrifice the 100ml. That does leave me some space in top, but I've got a small amount of apple juice to put in there. So the interim gravity reading is 1.006. 10.06, so there's still a very small amount of sugar in there. And whilst that tells me that fermentation is just about over, it also tells me that there might be a little way to go too. So I'm just going to make note of the interim gravity now on the demijohn at 1.006. So I'm going to work out the interim alcohol by volume. So it started at 1.050. I deduct from that where it's finished, 1.006, and that equals 0.044. Then I multiply that by 131.25, and at the minute, this is 5.775%. Let's just say 5.8%. Against my better judgment, I am going to pour this back in there. It does risk some cross-contamination. I'm just going to say fingers crossed. I was going to try it, but I'm not going to. The reason I'm doing this is I want this demijohn to be as full as possible. I've only got 600ml of apple juice to add to it because I can't find any in the shop, so I've had to buy 3 of these tiny little ones at the minute. Not very good and very expensive compared to what I normally buy, but needs must. So in goes the funnel, and in goes the first 200ml of apple juice. And it's apple juice from concentrate, just like it was in the first instance. Now I know that when I add a litre of apple juice into a brew like this, it normally increases the ABV by around 1%. So I'm expecting about 0.5% from 600ml. And here we go, squeeze another one, second one in. Making quite a mess. My wife's going to kill me. And last but not least. And this will just fill the demijohn up nicely. It means that there won't be much space in the top, and it'll develop a little CO2 blanket to protect itself from any oxidisation, basically. Just going to mix this around a little bit. Okay, I need to take another gravity reading now to see if the apple juice has changed the gravity. And there should be a minute change. And in fact, it has changed it to 1.010 exactly, 1010. So I'm going to pour this back in now. Again, I really am risking cross-contamination. Worst case scenario, it comes out like vinegar, I'll shove it in the air still. And that's what you'll call getting pickled. So this is not looking too bad. I'm just going to add my restarting gravity on there. So it's currently 5.8%. I've diluted it by adding 600ml. So I need to work out how much is in there and then take the dilution percentage into account. So that 5.8% is actually going to come down very slightly. Then I've got another restarting gravity. Then I'll have another final gravity. God, it's getting to me. And what this basically means is there's going to be some maths. Anyway, we'll cross that bridge a bit later on. I've done for tonight. So this is now going to be left until it completely and utterly stops fermenting, hopefully within the next 2 weeks. And then I'll look towards, hopefully, fingers crossed, bottling. Okay? Catch you then, folks. Good morning from the kitchen, folks. It's my Rhubarb and Hibiscus Cider bottling day. Let's have a look at it. Well, here it is. It's been in the demijohn clearing for the past 3 weeks after I racked it. It's done quite a nice job of becoming opaque. You can see my hand through there at the back. There is still a little bit of cloudiness, but nothing to worry about. And it's now time to get it out of there and into the bottles. So I'm hoping to get from here 6 750ml bottles. And here are my bottles. I'm using clear glass bottles because I like the colour of the cider and I want to be able to see it in the bottles. In each of those bottles I'm going to add some caster sugar, normal household sugar, about this much. That will cause a fractional fermentation. So when the yeast that's in here finds that sugar, it will cause a very fractional fermentation. That will increase the ABV by a tiny, tiny amount, but what it will do is create a byproduct of CO2. That will build pressure up, and that pressure is what will give this a sparkle. So it's time to take the bung out, and for the siphoning tube to go in. So I'm holding the tube in place with this useful clip. The bottom of the tube is in the sediment line, but the first bit that comes out is going into the hydrometer flask. So hopefully that means that what goes in the bottles won't be too cloudy. Fingers crossed, as always. Right, let's crack on. So yeah, definitely cloudy going in to the hydrometer flask, but that seems to be clearing up, and then into the bottles. I love the colour, that rosé colour, or pink to normal people. Anyway, that is going in just lovely. And you can see up here I've got my bungs softening in very hot water. Just makes them more malleable for pushing into the bottles. They're plastic bungs, which I just use over and over again. So that's the first bottle done, and into the second bottle. So while my second bottle's filling, I'll just get the bung into the first bottle. Easy peasy. And then the second bottle's full, so into the third bottle. And the next. So it really is coming out very nice and clear now. You can see that. That colour is just absolutely superb. It's got quite a fruity smell. I'm hoping for not too dry a flavour with this one, because I think it would suit the overall image and profile of what I'm doing, but who knows. And into the last bottle we go. Am I going to do it? I might have to resort to nicking a bit out of here. It's going to be a close call. And there we go, bubbles in the siphoning tube. I reckon once I've emptied that siphoning tube and tip that into that bottle, that'll be a full one. So before I can go any further, I do need to take the final gravity. So I'll drop my hydrometer in. That's sank well. There is a tiny bit more residual sweetness in this than what I expected, actually. I finished on a final gravity of 1.006, 1006. So the gravity calculation for this brew isn't straightforward. It will involve a little bit of maths. Let's get on the laptop. Okay, I'm going to level with you. I just did all the maths on PowerPoint on my screen. I've talked all the way through it, and then I've just had a GoPro issue and I've lost the film and I've deleted the PowerPoint. I'm not going through it all again. I'm just going to tell you that this is finished on 5.5%. Trust me on the maths. If you want an explanation, I'm happy to write one in the comments, but I can't go through that again. It's not even 7 o'clock in the morning and already my brain's fried. Sorry about that, but it is 5.5%. Okay, so I will have one bottle which has got a little bit more sediment in the bottom than the others. But never mind, it's worth it to get the 6th bottle. Okay, so I've got my bottles bunged, but the bungs won't stay in place without metal cages. These go over the top and they are a safety feature to prevent the bungs from flying out when that tiny little fractional fermentation takes place, because that will cause a pressure build-up. So you do need to use cages. I buy the cages online from eBay sellers usually, and they tend to last about 3 or 4 uses before they break. Anyway, that's one done. You don't need to watch me do all that because it's not that exciting. I'll get back to you when they're all done. So that's all my bottles bunged and caged. I'm just giving them a rinse because they've got sticky residue on the outside from the siphoning. Right, I've made my labels up. There they are in Microsoft Word. Let's get them printed. Okay, I'm just adding my labels to my bottles. I've got 3 different kinds of bottles here, and because of the textures on the glass, I'm going to have to put the labels in different places on the different bottles, which isn't the end of the world. It's sometimes nice to be consistent though. But not today. And there they are, a proper ragtag bunch. Hey folks, I'm in the living room and this is where my rhubarb and hibiscus cider will condition for the next month. It's up here on my drinks cabinet along with lots of other drinks which are currently conditioning. It's warm in this room. It's easily around 20 degrees throughout most of the daytime, and on an evening the drinks cabinet warms up on top anyway because there is a light which comes on every evening for about 4 or 5 hours. The whole shelf becomes nice and warm. Besides this room is connected to my conservatory, which is south facing, so I get all that heat in there, which is like a greenhouse, comes through into here and it keeps it nice and warm. So the next film that you see from me will be in about a month's time, and that will be opening and tasting. Catch you then, folks. Good evening from the kitchen, folks. It's my rhubarb and hibiscus cider grand opening night. And yes, of course, I'm very excited about this one. So this has been in the bottle for exactly 1 month, and now I'm going to open it tonight. So what do I want to get? Well, let me tell you, I would like a sparkle. I'd like a nice smell. I'd like it to look good in the glass, hopefully clear. And I'd like it to taste wonderful. It's a lot to ask for, isn't it? Let's find out what I'm going to get. So just removing the cage, which is getting a bit sharp. I think this is on its last legs. Now let's have a look at that bung. It has raised by about 2 millimeters, so I think this is definitely going to have a sparkle. Let's see. Am I going to get a pop? Yes! What a beauty. Look at that. If I were George Clark, I'd be saying, brilliant, in a George Clark accent. Wow, I'm really happy with that. Let's have a look. Oh, you beauty. Yes. That is lovely. Oh, it looks like sparkling Ribena. It's a lovely rosé colour. So clear in the glass. Let's have a smell. So I'm getting cider, I'm getting the apple cider, and I'm getting something floral, which must be the hibiscus. On the nose, the rhubarb isn't obvious, and I wouldn't have guessed the smell of hibiscus, but there's definitely a floral quality to it. Wow, That's gassy. So taste wise, it's a medium dry. It's not dry, it's not medium, it's bang in the middle. So I'm getting apple cider, I'm getting the tang from the rhubarb, and I'm getting an overriding floral quality from the hibiscus. It's all there. Now, if you'd given me this blind and said, what flavour cider is that? I'm not going to guess rhubarb and hibiscus, it's pretty random. But knowing that they're there, I can see them, I can taste them. Yep, it's a definite success. It's one to go in the tick book, one that I will make again in future. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed the film, folks. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. It'd be massively appreciated if you did. Every subscription helps, and I really, really do appreciate the support that people are giving me. So thank you very much. Feel free to leave comments, and I'll catch you on the next brew, or cooking film, or gardening film, or whatever that might be. Cheers. The film that you've just watched is a Moss Home and Garden production. You can find more by going to www.mosshomeandgarden.co.uk. I'd just like to say thank you very much for supporting my YouTube channel and for watching my films. It really is very much appreciated. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to my YouTube channel in order to receive future updates about the home and garden films which I upload. You can find my YouTube channel by going to www.mosshomeandgarden.co.uk. Please click on the red subscribe button. When you've done that, a little bell will appear. If you press that also, then you'll get future updates about the films which I upload. If you like my films, if you like my style of filming, then you might also like my travel channel, which you will find by going to youtube.com/Stuart Moss or type in www.mosstravel.tv. Again, if you could subscribe to that channel, it would be hugely appreciated. If you'd like to get Moss Home and Garden updates on Facebook, then please open Facebook and do a search for Moss Home and Garden, and you will find the page. If you like the page, then you will get future updates on there. And if you'd like to connect on Instagram for home, garden and travel photography, as well as some stories, then my username is StuMoss, STUMOSS. If you'd like to connect on Twitter, then my username is @StuartMoss. And if you'd like to contact me about film usage or any other issue, please just email me on stewmosshomegarden@gmail.com. Once again, thank you very much for supporting my channel, for watching my films. I do appreciate it. I'd just like you all to have a great day.